Greetings. This is Paul the Poke from paulthepoke.com. And today we have part 4 of the series we have been doing in regards to the sabbatical year or the Shemitah. And specifically, we're going to take a look at Exodus 23, verses 10 and 11. You shall sow your land for 6 years and gather in its yield. But on the 7th year you shall let it rest and lie fallow, so that the needy of your people may eat, and whatever they leave, the beast of the field may eat. You are to do the same with your vineyard and your olive grove. And so I know a lot of people probably think, so what's the big deal? Does God really care if this law is followed? And I would dare say yes. And then again, after all, families or farmers have to make money, and we all have to eat. And how can we be expected to survive during the 7th year if food's not growing? And, is God being unreasonable? And is it practical? Some would be like, well, does God even know what he's doing? Okay, whatever. Now, there are consequences, or are there consequences for Israel not keeping the sabbatical or Shemitah year? God's response is very straightforward. He told Moses and nation Israel at Mount Sinai, if you do not keep the commandments, I will kick you out of the land and disperse you. There will be pain and suffering. And we can specifically see that in Leviticus chapter 26, verses 14 through 39 for Israel's complete consequences of obedience. So he lays this out from the beginning. And it's one of those things, it's like, okay, I'm going to tell you the consequence if you do not follow what's expected of you. So there were no surprises for nation Israel. There was no gotcha moment. I mean, he lays it out from the beginning. This is what I will do if you're disobedient. And specifically, these are the issues related to the disobedience of the sabbatical or the Shemitah year. So even in regards to this statute, God says this is what's going to happen if you do not follow the sabbatical year or the Shemitah. Leviticus 26, verses 34 through 35, then the land will enjoy its Sabbaths all the days of the desolation while you are in your enemy's land. And that's what happened. Then the land will rest and enjoy its Sabbaths. All the days of its desolation, it will observe the rest, which it did not observe on your Sabbaths while you were living in it. So in other words, God knew, you're not going to follow my directions. I'm going to kick you out of the land, and the land is going to rest. There's going to be rest. Leviticus 26, verse 43, for the land will be abandoned by them and will make up for its Sabbaths while it is made desolate without them. They, meanwhile, will be making amends for their iniquity. So it's a sin, it's iniquity, it's disobedience. And why? Because they, Israel, his people, rejected God's ordinances, and their soul abhorred my statutes. So not only, their attitude was really, frankly, crap toward God. It's like, whatever, we don't have to do this. And they didn't. And God did what he said he was going to do. And that's the story. Israel disobeyed God and his commandments. And God counted 70 sabbatical or Shemitah years Israel had not kept. Judgment came via the Babylonians. Jews of all ages were slaughtered. The temple was raided. The articles for worship and service were stolen and taken to Babylon. The temple was burned. The walls of the city were destroyed. Buildings, resources were plundered. Those who survived were taken into captivity in Babylon. And why did these events take place? Well, we know from Leviticus 26, God laid it out straightforward. Then in 2 Chronicles 36, verse 21, he says, to fulfill the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah, until the land had enjoyed its Sabbaths. All the days of its desolation, it kept Sabbath until 70 years were complete. So Israel did not keep 70 Sabbaths. 70 70 Sabbaths were decreed. And after those 70 years were completed, a decree went from Cyrus, and Israel went back to their land. And we get that from Second Chronicles 36, verses 22 through 23. And that's what happened to Israel historically. The Jews were kicked out of the land again in 70 AD and scattered throughout the globe. And that's the whole point of Daniel's 77s. It all goes back to their obedience and their disobedience toward the Sabbath, or the sabbatical year, the Shemitah. And there they were scattered throughout the globe, dispersed, the diaspora, until 1948. Israel became a nation again. So, pushing 1,878 years. Which brings us to today, since they've been back in the land. I don't know how well they paid attention to it, but for whatever reason, there is an element of Jewish people who are now interested in giving the land its rest this sabbatical year. And this sabbatical year ends for the Hebrew year 5782, or it'll be in 2022 in a Western Gregorian calendar. So the Shemitah, and I got a typo there. It should be late summer or early fall, not 2015, but 2021. And it ends late September 2022 on the Gregorian calendar. And to the Jews, this will be their civil new year, Rosh Hashanah 5783. So it seems like a pretty straightforward law, so to speak. And it's like, well, why would God care about that? Well, he does. He tells people what he would do from the beginning if they were disobedient. And then he follows it up again in Second Chronicles when it does happen. And as a reminder, you didn't follow the law, or this particular statute of the law. So it's a big deal. And even today, there are some who are paying some lip service to it and are aware of it. Of all people, it was marijuana farmers in Israel concerned about, well, if we stop growing marijuana, this is going to affect healthcare in Israel and how we can provide cannabis relief in whatever form is needed. So cannabis farmers, marijuana farmers, are trying to figure out a way to work around this. Some have even gone to the point of leasing or loaning the land to non-Jewish or Gentile farmers, and think that's one way they can skirt the law by having a Gentile farm the land. But that's not the issue. It's the land needs to rest. Not only do we as workers need to rest, but the land needs to rest. And so we're kind of part and parcel talking about it, but not really doing it over there. There are some that are doing it, and circumstances happen, and they're blessed for their obedience. Things just kind of tend to work out for them anyway. But if you enjoy this and appreciate this, please feel free to share with others at paulthepoke.com. This is under Paul the Poke and Prophecy, under the categories and the keywords stated here, SEO words: Second Chronicles 36:70, Exodus, Farmer, God, Harvest, Israel, etc. And if you'd like to subscribe to the website, type in your email here in the gray box, hit subscribe, and you'll receive notification every time we put something out. Appreciate you guys following along. Have a good one. Take care. Bye.